All right, let's continue with section 3.3. This should say 3.3 with using angle relationships to find angle measures. So yesterday we talked about vertical angles, complementary, adjacent, linear pairs, and supplementary, and how those relationships work to be able to find an angle measure. Now let's apply those and apply some algebra as well. So in number 6, it says, if measure angle PQT equals 3x plus 47, and measure angle SQR equals 6x minus 25, find the measure of angle SQR. So let's label what we are given. In this case, angle PQT is right here, and this is going to equal 3x plus 47, which is where I got this one from. And it says measure 6 of angle SQR equals 6x minus 25, which is this one. So I'm going to label this 6x minus 25. Now, in this case, these two would be considered vertical angles. And so that means that the measure of angle PQT has to be congruent to the measure of angle SQR. So if that is the case, we are actually going to set these equal to each other so that we are able to solve for x. So we have 3x plus 47 equals 6x minus 25. So to do this, I need to move. Notice I do not need to combine any like terms because those cannot be combined and these cannot be combined, but I do need to move the x's over to one side and the constants over to the other. So I'm going to start off by moving this 3x by subtracting because it is a positive and the opposite would be to subtract. And so this is going to give me 47 equals 6x minus 3x equals 3x minus 25. Then I need to move my constant over to the other side. So because this is minus 25, I'm going to do plus 25 to both sides. These will end up equaling 0. So therefore, 47 plus 25 equals 72 equals 3x. Now, this is technically, I'm going to rewrite it. To get x by itself now, we're going to do the opposite of multiplying, and we're going to divide by 3. So in this case, x equals 24. Now, the question originally said for us to find the measure of angle SQR. Well, this is SQR. To find that, we're going to have to take this x value and substitute it. So the measure of angle SQR, we can use the equation 6x minus 25. Well, if I plug in the known x, I have 6 times 24 minus 25. And if you were to put that in Desmos, you end up with 119 degrees, which is our answer. So when it comes to these, you need to apply the angle relationships to figure out how am I going to set it up. Sometimes if it's a linear pair or if it's supplementary, it's going to add up to 180. And if it's complementary, it's going to add up to 90. Now, a new thing that we have is perpendicular lines. When you have perpendicular lines, it's two lines that intersect at a right angle. And if you recall, a right angle is 90 degrees. And so here, if you notice, you have the symbol that shows that this is considered to be a 90-degree angle. So the symbol to show that something is perpendicular is going to look like this. It's a straight line vertically and a horizontal line. So in the diagram to the right, you can see that line L is perpendicular to line M because they create that 90-degree angle. So let's keep that in mind and try number 7. It says, if line AB, so here's line AB, is perpendicular, because there's that symbol right there, to line CD, ray CD, the measure of DCE is 7x plus 2. So I can go ahead and label that. DCE is 7x plus 2. And the measure of ECB, which is this little part right here, is x plus 8. We are trying to find the measure of DCE. Well, to do this, this key important part right here where it says it's perpendicular is important because this tells me that these have to equal 90 degrees, okay? These have to equal 90 degrees. And in this case, these two could be considered adjacent and complementary. And so because this is 90, this also has to be 90. So that means that 7x plus 2 plus x plus 8 has to equal 90 degrees because it told us that these two are considered perpendicular. So if this is 90, then this is also 90. And then because these are adjacent, I would add these and add them to equal to 90. So now we got to solve for x. So in this case, notice I have multiple variables and constants on the same side. So I'm going to start off by combining like terms. So I have 7x can combine with this 1x, and so that's going to give me 8x. Notice when I'm doing this, I'm not changing any signs. All I do is add. Then I can add this 2 with this 8 to give me 10. And so now, to get x by itself, we're going to move this 10 over to the other side, away from the x. And since it says plus 10, I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. So that's going to equal 0. I end up with 8x equals 80. Divide by 8 on both sides. Therefore, x is going to equal 10. And so notice the question didn't ask us what x equals. It wants to know the measure of angle DCE. So the measure of angle DCE, if you recall, that equation was 7x plus 2. And so now that we know what x is, I'm going to substitute that in, put this in Desmos, and you would end up with 72 degrees. Now, on your assignment, you're going to have 5 problems to do on your own, but there is one that I'm actually going to do for you. So in this problem here, it says, we're going to try this together. So if ray UW bisects, that's a key word here, angle TUV, okay? The measure of angle TUW, so TUW is this one right here, okay? That is 13x minus 5, 13x minus 5. Then it also says measure of WUV, so that's this other one, is 7x plus 31. Now, we need to find the value of x. Well, the key word in this was the fact that it bisects. If you recall, whenever something bisects, that makes that this angle congruent to this angle. So both angles are congruent to each other. So what we're going to do is we are going to set them up equal to each other. So I'm going to have 13x minus 5 equals 7x plus 31. And now our job is to solve for x. So to do this, I'm going to start off by moving my variables to one side. So I can move my x to the left by subtracting because it was a positive. 13x minus 7x is a 6x. I'm going to bring down the minus 5. And then I'm left with 31 because those are going to equal 0. Then I can add 5 on both sides. These are going to equal 0. So I end up with 6x equals 36. And then in order to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by 6. Therefore, x equals 6 because 36 divided by 6 equals 6. Now, one important note, this was our answer because the question said for us to find the value of x. However, I just want to double check that I did this correctly. And so if these two are to bisect, or this ray bisects these two angles, then technically they should be equal to each other. So I can double check that 13 times 6 minus 5 is going to equal 73 degrees. Okay, so this one is 73 degrees. And then if I check the other one, 7 times 6 plus 31, that is also going to equal 73 degrees. So that's how you know that these bisect each other, because they should equal the same value. So keep that in mind, okay? Because that means that angle TUV would be an addition of these two. So to help you with number 4, angle TUV is going to equal this 73 plus this 73. And if that's the case, that means that together it's going to equal 146 degrees. So keep that in mind with how you're doing. 13x minus 5 plus 7x plus 31 should have equaled 146. But in this example, they told us these were, and all we had to find was x.